Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about how to use square brackets, and we're going to start off with the basics here. What are square brackets? I've got a little cartooned version of them here for a visual, but we're also going to see a ton of them throughout this video. And we also want to talk about what the heck do we use these things for. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on using square brackets for direct quotations. If you're unsure what direct quotations are or how you would use them, I would encourage you to take a look at my other video, How to Integrate and Cite Quotations, and there I go in depth on all of that, so that resource is available to you should you need it. Alright, so back to our square brackets. Essentially, we use square brackets to adapt or add essential information to a quotation. More specifically, we use square brackets to keep tense consistent, to keep point of view consistent, or to add important details to a quote, and we're going to jump into some examples right away here. First one is keeping tense consistent. So here at the top of the slide, I have a sentence: when Billy arrives, he, quote, picked up his suitcase and set out to walk the quarter-mile to the Bell and Dragon. At the beginning of my sentence, I'm in the present tense, which is where you usually want to be when you're writing an essay. So when Billy arrives being present tense, but the actual story itself is in past tense. Like we have the word picked, for example, which is in the past. So in order to remedy this, I have changed the word picked to picks. When Billy arrives, he picks up his suitcase and also sets, instead of set, out to walk the quarter-mile to the Bell and Dragon. Another example that we have here is from A Sound of Thunder by Ray Bradbury. I've introduced my quote: when Eccles looks at the time machine, there was a sound like a gigantic bonfire burning all of time. Again, my introduction to the quote is in present tense, but the quote itself is in past tense. We have that was there. So in order to remedy that, I'm going to use square brackets and indicate that I have exchanged that was for an is. When Eccles looks at the time machine, there is a sound like a gigantic bonfire burning all of time. So essentially the square bracket there is just indicating that I've either slightly changed a word, like in our first example, picked to picks, or that I have exchanged a word. Essentially here our was for is, in order to keep that tense consistent. Our other option is keeping point of view consistent. This is quite important in an essay. We always want to stay away from that first person perspective and keep with third person. Our first example says, Nick states, I wasn't actually in love, but I felt a sort of tender curiosity. So we have two I's in that direct quotation that we need to get rid of. So instead what we could do is I actually started the quotation later and I put Nick states he. So then that gets rid of my first I. And then for my second I, I've replaced it with a he and put square brackets around that to indicate that I have changed it. He wasn't actually in love, but he felt a sort of tender curiosity. Same idea from a story called On the Rainy River by Tim O'Brien. Before, O'Brien states, back in college, I had taken a modest stand against the war. Then we switch that I for a he. O'Brien states, back in college, he had taken a modest stand against the war. Our last reason that we would use square brackets typically is adding important details. So here I've taken a quote from Hamlet, and it says, Marcellus asks, what has this thing appeared again this night? Here, we don't know what the thing is. And say if my essay is really like talking about the ghost in Hamlet, I probably want to indicate that Marcellus is talking about the ghost and not just some vague thing. So that's what I've done in my revision. Marcellus asks, what? Has the ghost appeared again this night? This just makes the quotation make a lot more sense and gives us some context that's required. Our second example here is from The Landlady by Roald Dahl. It says, promptly, Billy turned away from the dog and stared with deep admiration at the little woman. Spoiler alert, in The Landlady, the dog is taxidermied, and that detail may or may not indicate that the landlady is a murderer. So if my essay was focused on that and that was an important detail, I would add that in with square brackets, as shown in my second example. Promptly, Billy turned away from the taxidermied dog and stared with deep admiration at the little woman. So here I've used square brackets to say, add in this little detail about the fact that the dog is taxidermied. If you want to learn more about square brackets or writing an essay or using evidence, I would encourage you to take a look at my essay handbook, which is on my website listed right here on the slide. And if you use the promo code TAKE25, it'll give you 25% off. I always like to end my videos with a little affirmation. Today's is keep going, push through, persevere. You've got this. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any questions, please leave them below in the comments and I'll try to get back to you. Good luck with all of your work and take care of yourself. Bye.